Welcome back. Here we are again. We're 2 weeks almost.
SeaVenture Radio.
SeaVenture Radio. We're back again. We've only missed 1 week, so we're back and we're doing much better than we were. But I think every other week's probably a good time frame.
Yeah, we'll try to scoot it up to every week at some point, I'm sure.
We'll see what happens whenever things are going on. As you can see, you've got a new body here with us today. Many of you have met Tom before. If not, if you're a long-time listener, we've actually had Tom and Patty on before a long time ago. And if I do remember,
Almost a year ago.
at least, it was a great show. And one of the big disappointments of losing our connections with Violent Drive Radio is losing our archives. We're really bummed about that because we had some really great shows, and y'all's was definitely one of them. I think it would have been one of the top 10 of the ones we had.
Thank you.
It was. I learned a lot about y'all during the show myself, and I remember we ended the show because we ran out of time, and we're wanting to get y'all back on. And this won't be quite as in depth probably today as since we're missing Patty, but we'll definitely get y'all both on again soon.
It's not that she's missing; she's just working.
We do know where she is.
We know where she is.
So, what's the world of Sir Commodore?
Incoming Commodore.
Incoming Commodore.
World of GBCA. So this after Thanksgiving here this weekend, we've got the GBCA's second of the fall series races, which is just going to be basically a big rum race. Go on our site and go on gbca.org, and you'll be able to see all about it and show up and race the race, and we'll probably give somebody rum afterwards, and unless there's a big shutdown or something.
Like a plant shutdown?
Yeah, there we go. Some kind of shutdown.
You say shutdown around here, that's usually what I think of.
Yeah, and then a week from that, on the next Saturday, the 5th, or I'm sorry, what is that, the 7th of December, is the GBCA Chili Chase, which is the end of the fall series, and normally we would have chili tasting and a party and all of that kind of stuff, and of course none of that's going to happen that way because we can't be having little pots of chili and handing each other tastings, and somehow I think we'd probably get in trouble for doing that.
It doesn't taste as good through a mask.
No, it does not.
No.
It's a little bit of a mess.
If you spray like disinfectant on it, it kind of takes away from the flavor as well.
Yeah.
So then after that, there's no racing or anything until second. Well, the Ravagna up at HYC is the 1st of January, and of course that's always fun because you're hungover, which is why it's hungover spelled backwards, the name of the race. So go on HYC's Houston Yacht Club's website for that one. And then the 2nd is the 1st of the Icicle Series GBCA races, and it looks right now like we're probably going to have 5 Icicle races in a row. And the 5th one is going to be some kind of actual race where you pay an entry fee, and we'll try to have the Judge Smales thing and so forth. We'll see what's going on with the government and everything else by then. We should have our new president, or the old one back again, depending on how that goes. Looks like probably not. So we'll have some kind of party. Probably not going to be having the Commodore's Ball in the early half of the year. We're not sure about that, but we're thinking about postponing a little bit till it's warmer, and we can have it outside and make it fit in with all the guidelines. And because let's face it, most of us are 50 or older at this point, and not all of us, and we're getting close to the point where the COVID.
That remark.
I got the I fit into more than one category, at-risk category, rubbing my belly. So we'll see what happens with all this.
If I live my life by the Charles Brodus philosophy that 70 is the new teens.
Oh yeah.
But you have to behave that way too to keep up with the Charles Brothers.
You
No,
do.
for sure.
You do. But anyway, a lot's been going on around here. Tom and Patty have become a bigger part of Windward here in a lot of different ways, and we can talk a little bit more about that throughout the episode. But one of the things that they have done is got the Mayan Mystress as part of the fleet now.
Oh, speaking of, we are on the Mayan Mystress.
We are on the lovely Mystress. Beautiful boat.
The only Mystress I'm allowed to have. So.
What's the origin of the name Mayan Mystress? Anyway?
So, Mayan Mystress she came with that name, and it's really difficult to come up with a name for a boat, as many of you may know. You know, finding something witty or clever or whatever, but we didn't have anything really in mind, and the name was actually really good. So, and it fits her personality perfectly. So we just opted not to change her name. So she came from the previous owners. She has been down in the Caribbean, maybe even around the Yucatan Peninsula. So she may have some Mayan origins that way.
So I mean, normally if you were going to rename a boat, you'd have to do all the naming ceremony
Right.
and everything. You wouldn't want to have to go through that.
Right.
But if it's a Mayan Mystress, do you have to like sacrifice somebody and roll them down
A volcano or
something.
something like that.
I
I don't know. That would be
There's bound to be some kind of naming ceremony for Mayan Mistresses.
I think Patty and I thought of that for a little bit, and we're like, man, that sounds really complicated and might have some legal ramifications.
Not until you get to international water.
Right,
So,
true.
yeah, I'd hold off.
International water, that's all. Yeah, everything's a wash then.
Yeah.
So,
It is a lovely boat. It's the lines on it, I think, are. I mean, I'm not a huge catamaran fan unless you're anchored somewhere in the Caribbean, but just the lines on this boat are just gorgeous.
yeah, she's very curvaceous. I think Fontaine Peugeot. Excuse me, I gotta say it right, or else Anyway, Fontaine Peugeot, they did a really nice job. This year, this model, the Bahia, ran from I think 98 to about 2009, 2010, right around there. She's a 46-foot model. We have the 4-cabin version as opposed to the owner's version, which has the 1 cabin on 1 hull and with the bathroom stuff. Anyway, so we have the 4-cabin version, so we can accommodate up to 6 couples if they wish. We have some other really cool spaces on the boat. If you have kids, we got these little cabins in the bow, and you can kind of shove them in there. And we call them the coffin cabins. They're way up there in the bow. But yeah, she's a real comfortable boat. She doesn't have quite the deck layouts as you see on the newer boat, so not quite as condo looking. Even the interior, as you can see with the table, we have a lot of curves, a lot of rounded corners. It gives her a very unique European feel. I think the French designers actually did a pretty good job on this boat, and she sails pretty darn good too. She's really fast. We've had her personally up to around 10-12 knots and about 15 to 20 knots of wind on good days. She's got a fairly large sail plan, but still fits under the ICW rules. So I think we're at 65 feet. Which I mean, I'm kind of taking over the show here. Which we just did a wedding cruise, which is fantastic. If anybody's something they might be thinking of, we married a couple on board. They decided to also do the honeymoon, so they stayed on board, and we went down the ICW and got to see some of the South Texas coast wildlife and wetlands, and just it's absolutely beautiful down there. If you haven't, I think we brought this up before in other shows, but if you haven't actually experienced that, that might be something you'd be interested in. We ended up taking her down to Matagorda Bay. We found a couple little coves. We anchored out at the mouth of the Brazos River, had a really nice time there. There's some really private beaches that you can dinghy to and just have a beach all to yourself. It's absolutely fantastic. We made it down to Matagorda Harbor, a very nice little harbor there, and then out to the Gulf. We did an overnighter on the Gulf, and we just had the most absolute perfect weather. The couple went out on the forward net, and they slept the whole trip almost on the forward net, which typically in the Gulf we get a little bit of wave action and you might get splashed, but we just had a beautiful, perfect night, and they were able to sleep on the net the whole night, and they thought that was like the best thing ever. But yeah, then we made it back to Galveston. It was a really neat trip, but she's very suited for any of those kinds of things, long range, short range, whatever. So
Mud bugs at the door.
mud bugs at the door.
Speaking of wildlife.
Speaking of wildlife.
Get the official dog of Windward SeaVenture.
Absolutely. I think she runs the show most of the time.
She makes all the decisions.
That's for sure. Because I know whenever you go in the office and the captain's chair is vacant, she's in it. For sure.
Yeah. Even if it's not vacant.
Exactly. But anyway, so she's a 1999 version. The Mayan Mystress is, and she needed some TLC, and we've put a lot into her. We still have a long way to go, I think, for me personally to bring her up to my standards, but she's a very capable, very safe, and comfortable boat.
One of the many delightful boats in the Windward SeaVenture fleet.
It is. We're super happy to have it. Tom and Betty, they do live aboard, so it's a little bit different than a lot of the other boats in the fleet. So all that being said, one of the kind of, I don't know, target markets that we're going to try and focus on is doing trips, like Tom just said, down the coast, and where they would be captain it for you, and you just kind of go and enjoy it. And yeah, you're exactly right. It's kind of one of those things that when you live there, you just take it for granted. I mean, we live here, and we are a little bit limited on things directly in Galveston Bay here for destinations, but there's a lot down the coast a boat that can, and majority of them can, but to get them to their bridges and get comfortable going through the lots and making sure they're open, things like that. Talking about wildlife, one of the stories y'all told on the way, I don't know if we were coming back or down, y'all just told us the story, but that was a pretty cool experience.
Yes.
National Geographic moment.
Totally. We were tucked up in a little bayou down near the mouth of the Brazos River, and of course, two things happened. One, we're sitting on the back deck having cocktail hour, and this is not sundowners, whatnot. Anyway, Lori, the lady of the couple, says, "Hey, do they have cows in the wildlife preserve?" I'm like, "No, they shouldn't have cows in the wildlife preserve." She's like, "Well, what is that over there?" And so we got the binoculars out and looked, and it was a 300-pound hog going across. It was huge, the biggest hog I ever saw. It did. It looked like a cow. It was so big. So a little bit later, I'm barbecuing, and I'm just enjoying the scenery while you're barbecuing. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I see this beautiful great blue heron over here on this log fishing, and I see the egrets and the Rosetta spoonbills and the fishermen. A couple of fishermen had gone by, and they were showing us their catch and stuff. But anyway, it was nice and quiet, and I was kind of there by myself. And next thing I know, I hear the heron squawking. I'm like, "What?" I look over, and I see a whole bunch of ruckus. So I pull out the binoculars, and a bobcat has just taken down this blue heron and is in the process of mangling it. And I was like, "Oh my God, come out here and look." So everybody came out and looked, and we got the binoculars out, and it looked over and saw us. I just got caught. I better take this off into the woods. So it drug the heron off into the tall grass there and finished its meal. But that was just like total National Geographic moment right there.
Well, that's the kind of things you see. I mean, it's cool to get out there and away from the city, especially nowadays.
Perfect social distancing.
Yeah,
if you're into that.
If you're not a blue heron.
As long as you're not a blue heron, exactly.
You're not a blue heron.
To be honest, I didn't even know there were bobcats around here.
No, there's some.
Cool.
I actually I was over at Hillman's, which if you ever need fresh seafood, everybody talks about roses and everything in Seabrook. Hillman's is my go-to place, but they're kind of right under the Dickinson Bayou Bridge. But they're kind of off the beaten path a little bit, and I saw two baby bobcats just like playing in the street.
Oh, no kidding.
And when I pulled up, they each went their own way. But there's not a whole lot, but there's some around here.
I would guess here on the Texas coastline, one of the things about a platform like this is you can actually be comfortable, out there, because it's otherwise it's just camping.
Yeah. This is definitely glamping.
Yeah. A really nice upscale way of seeing everything, getting up and down the coastline and being away from everybody, but simultaneously comfy.
Yep. Absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
It is nice.
You wouldn't want to go on your honeymoon in a tent unless that's a real lifestyle decision for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some folks. Pat and I did that. That was our honeymoon. Seriously, we camped in Yosemite for 2 weeks. That was our honeymoon. Did some hiking and.
That don't sound bad at all.
It was a great time. It was a great time.
I don't know if I'd put the Texas coast up to Yosemite.
Oh yeah. It does have its own beauty though.
You're not going to see any hogs in Yosemite.
No. Definitely bears, yes, but hogs no. Not so much. But I think the bears are even friendly in Yosemite. You can almost go up and pet them. They don't want you to, but
Right. Yeah.
So many of them. But anyway, good stuff. But yeah, if you ever get around if you want to do some exploring along the Texas coast, I think it's a real treat. It's something that, like Daryl says, you don't necessarily realize the beauty of it until you're immersed in it and the quiet peacefulness of it all, as well as all the wonderful wildlife you can see. So.
It is cool. And there's a lot of little hole-in-the-wall fishing towns and things up along the way.
Matagorda's a cool one. Port
Aransas and
Port Aransas,
Port Lavaca.
all these little bitty fishing towns is just. I mean, they're picturesque with the weathered look on all the buildings and boardwalk streets and things like that. But very unique area. And the only way you can get to them, most of them, is by boat anyway, or some other way.
Yeah.
There's not too many roads to get to them.
Right.
Or if they are roads, they're very small and one lane blacktop maybe.
Yeah, definitely off the beaten path. But so anyway, that's a lot of things. We've had a super busy year. We talked with Suzanne yesterday, and we just about doubled our 101 lessons
That's crazy.
this year from the year before. Big kudos to her on that. Those of you that have taken the lessons recently, you probably were on the phone with her a lot. In the past, we had our scheduled classes, and that's what we had. Here now, Suzanne gets on there and hustles, and if you want to take a class, she does her best to fill our 3-person minimum, and has made it happen. So all that being said, there's a lot of y'all out there I know that have learned to sail and are wanting to do something with your newly learned skills, and all the things we're talking about here with Tom and Kevin, and there's a lot to do around here close, and that's the stuff you got to do, is get out and practice. It's like anything else. When you learn to ride your bicycle and take your training wheels off, I mean, you had to fall down once or twice, imagine, and then get back on and keep trying, and I'm sure people will get out and have a bump here or something in sailing, and you just get out there and do it.
Yeah, and if you're into the whole, once you've taken your classes and so forth, you can go into GBCA's discussion forum or friend us on Facebook or something like that, and eventually hook up with some racing sailors, and racing sailors are constantly looking for new crew members. Get out there and do some racing and drink some beers on the bay. And
yeah, I can't stress getting involved in racing. It's to some degree enough. You don't have to really like it. You don't even have to really get into it, but it makes you exponentially a better sailor to go out, even if you're just rail meet and going along for the ride just to watch and listen. I mean, it's really as far as sailing and sail trim and things like that, you can really learn a lot.
Racing boats are so much more reactive that you feel the wind shift, you feel the boat heel, you get more you're more involved in it, and then there's a lot more yelling and screaming too, which is always educational.
Always.
But it's a more intense experience. It's just like if you wanted to learn how to drive a car or work on a car. Racing cars would help a lot with learning that stuff. You wouldn't necessarily do it all the time. You'd still have a lot of people would prefer cruising, to put it mildly.
Yeah, and you made a good analogy there, talking about working on a car than driving a car. It kind of seems like, it was funny, because in the years that I was racing, I mean, the racers could make that boat go as fast as it could, and tweaking sails, but when something broke or something, they basically dropped sails and drove it back to the slip and caused a mechanic. Where the cruiser will sit out there and maybe bob around and not go very fast, but virtually anything could happen to that boat, and they would figure out a way to get it fixed and keep going. So it's kind of like the difference between the mechanic and the race car driver versus the pit crew, almost.
Yeah. You reminded me of the time years ago when you and me and Murat were bringing back the Hunter 37.5 from
Kiki, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're coming back, and we come around the corner, and there's this brand new Beneteau 45 or larger sailing along, and turns into a race. So we've got 10 foot less water line and these worn out old Dacron sails, and Murat and you and I go running around in the boat tweaking everything, and that boat never came anywhere near catching us, and we're coming back in, and the brand new Beneteau turns off and goes into the dealers area up towards where the dealers tie up, and realize they're trying to sell this brand new Beneteau to somebody, and we whipped their ass with a 20-year-old Hunter, and maybe we didn't do them any favors that day.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Actually, that was bringing the boat back from taking it down for Kevin and Jenny's engagement
Right.
and proposal, and they just had their wedding anniversary 4 years, like this last week. So it was
4 years ago last week we were bringing the boat back, probably.
well, that was the wedding itself.
Oh, that's right.
I don't even remember how long ago. It's probably been about 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long while back.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between the racing sailors and the cruisers. And the
Yeah.
racing sailors see another boat in the water, they're immediately tweaking everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, they always say if there's 2 boats on the water, there's a race.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Petty's always giving me a hard time. As soon as I see somebody else, I'm like, all right, the race is on. She's like, we're not racing, Tom. Like, there's 2 boats on the water. It's a race.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
That is the truth.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
No, it is funny with the Mayan Mystress because we actually looked at the boat. I think you and me and Charles
Yep.
a long time ago when we ended up learning about the.
Right, that would have been 5 years ago. Lunacy.
Lunacy, yeah, and that's we ended up getting turned on to that boat, and that's a whole other story.
So this boat was the one that was tied up over there.
Yeah.
And we went right by it. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, as far as finding the boat, I mean, it was completely, as completely random. I mean, we had just gotten done with a whole bunch of different things, and I think we said this in the last show, but you know, just to bring people up to speed. But Patty and I we've only been in this area about 2 years or 3 years. So we bought the boat November 2017, so this is 3 years. Anyway, so we're in between things. We had 5 boats picked out, worldwide, excuse me, and we were getting ready. Patty was online getting ready to buy tickets to Croatia or Israel or Grenada or wherever we were going to go look at boats. And we were staying at my buddy Dave Reed's up in San Antonio. And Dave, I swear to God, that guy is just amazing. I mean, I've known him for about 10 years, and he's just an amazing guy. But anyway, so we're hanging out with him, and I said, "Hey, Dave, where's Kima?" And he's like, "Why? What do you want to know about Kima?" I was like, "Well, this catamaran just came up for sale down there. I mean, it just listed today. I want to go check it out, you know, before we do this world tour." And he's like, "Oh, that's great. I got some family there in Houston. We'll go down there tomorrow." And because he had some time off, and we were goofing around doing some fishing and stuff, and so we did. We jumped in his excursion. We drove down here and looked at the boat, and it was over at South Texas Coast was selling it, and we looked at the boat, and we went and had lunch and came back and put a bid on it, and it was just that quick. I mean, and within 3 weeks we had us we were the new owners of the Mayan Mystress.
A new home.
And a new home. So
You never know.
we weren't full-time on board for the first year because we had to go back and sell our house in Washington State. We moved down here from Washington State. That was my last duty station. I was in the military for 27 years and retired out of Fort Lewis, Washington. Anyway, so we went back and we sold the house. Once we got the house sold, then we've been back on board and full-time on board ever since. And doing charters and just having a good time with it. Just enjoying the boat. And then this community is fantastic. If nobody knows anything about the Kima community, it's a secret. I won't say anything else. But no, this community has just been fantastic.
There's a kind of funny way that the sailing community in general and boating community is usually pretty open, and you blend that with the sort of laid back sort of Texas, Southeast Texas area, and just really easy place to be in general.
It's
nice
a great
people.
place, and it's a great place to get your boat provisioned, and not necessarily provisioned, but fixed, and any maintenance.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean,
the resources around here are fantastic. You can get anything you need done to your boat within a 10-mile radius. I mean, anything.
and quality work,
And quality
reasonably
work.
priced relative to. I mean, it's expensive because it's boats, but when you go to Florida or
San Diego
Caribbean
or
California,
yeah.
California,
California is
but it really is, and it always cracks me up after spending some time in the Caribbean, especially people that complain about the contractors not showing up on time or not getting things done in a timely manner, and I just kind of chuckle to myself. I'm like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You have, and it's to the point that when we went down to St. Martin to get the Renegade Catitude at the time, and now finally officially Renegade Mermaid with the new logo and all on the boat. The surveyor we got there, he super cool dude, and got to talking to him, and he was like, and when we found him, we didn't know anybody down there to ask for a recommendation or anything. We just got online, and this is literally the only guy that showed up with as far as recommendations and things. And I got talking to him about that a little bit, and talking to him kind of almost the same conversation we're having now in the boating community here. And he said, down here it's real easy to have a good reputation. All you got to do is show up. Yeah. He was like, because nobody else does. Yeah. And but he was a super nice guy. That was a neat experience just doing that survey period, because the previous owners that we bought Catitude from were just awesome people, just really cool. Just our relationship with them was probably sold the boat as much as the boat itself. And the surveyor, when we were going through it, we were having lunch and taking a break, waiting for the guy to drive the lift to put it back in the water, and he was like, normally being a surveyor is almost like being a psychologist or a psychiatrist, because I'm caught between the buyer and the seller. And he was like, y'all two are like the same guy. It was like, y'all two. So yeah, it was pretty cool. But, anyway, like I said, Kevin, the whole boating community and it is neat. There is your differences as far as a little bit of the racer side of things to the cruiser side of things and then of course even your especially with the trawler side of things, it's still kind of a little bit on the sailboat side of things because you're moving slow. I mean, when you move into the sport fish and the serious fishermen, it's still the same a little bit, but they're definitely in their own category.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a big community too for the boating community. I was just last night or the night before, I was on one of the Facebook, groups, and somebody posted a comment. I thought that's a weird comment, and I clicked on his name to go see what he was talking about. And I thought this was going to be some guy in St. Martin or something else like that. And I scrolled down to the second thing, and he's it kind of teared me up a little bit. He said he was saying farewell to his good friend James Liston, and I'm like, this is an old friend of mine from Houston Yacht Club. And so I scrolled some more, and this guy had moved here about a year ago and met up with James Liston, and he's talking about what a great guy he was and how much he taught him and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, you see that a lot on the Facebook discussion groups where it's somebody from here posting help or posting some kind of comment or something else, because it's just such a big boating community and there's so many professionals here. Be our PRO from last year, racing officer from last year at GBCA, Scott Tuma, posts a lot of this help with rigging and things like that to people on Facebook, and you'll see his name pop up, and it's just all kinds of people locally and so forth. But yeah, it's a huge boating community here.
Yeah. Well, cool deal.
And I should mention the Turkey Day Regatta was the James Liston Turkey Day Regatta, because he was our local, one of our local celebrities, and he passed away it's close to a year ago now, I think.
Yeah.
But, one way or the other. It's, good people in there.
Good people.
Definitely.
Definitely good people.
Definitely. Well, what else we got?
I don't know. What else is going on here at the dock, Daryl?
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
the one thing, there's tons of things going on here at the dock. It's been a super busy year. We're still doing classes. If you're wanting to, we've got a couple of new things. I think we talked about it a little bit last time, and I was supposed to get the prices and things, and I didn't. But we're still taking classes for those of you that want to social distance and don't want to go shopping, or just don't want to go shopping, which I fall into that category. We got gift certificates for Christmas, which is coming up. I feel like we're within the week of Thanksgiving at least. I can start talking about Christmas without being scolded. We did buy some pumpkin ice cream, so we are on the pumpkin spice bandwagon. I think we can be there now that it's Thanksgiving.
Then we got some pumpkin spice creamery next week.
But yeah, we're doing gift certificates. We are really, really close to getting that website for the Sail on Air inflatables up. We are going to have a short video after this of a little bit of a demo if it doesn't blow away. It's pretty windy here today. But we still got a lot of classes. The rest of the year classes are on scheduled only, kind of like we talked about with Suzanne. We're gonna be going by the end of the year, 1st of January, we'll have next year's schedule up as far as when classes will be. And again, like this year, just because it isn't a schedule there, don't hesitate to call, and we can work to accommodate you the best we can. We'll be scheduling more classes next year. Bitterly Sweet, the Catalina 320, sold from Little Yachts, and even though they were Windward alumni, they are not going to put the boat in the fleet. So I'm happy for them that they're living the dream. They're getting it's a sweet little boat. Did the survey on it yesterday, sea trial on it yesterday, and they're really excited. We posted the video of all that on our Facebook page if you want to check that out. So that's exciting. Sea Buddy, the Catalina 30, it's 40, and a lot of people mention that it's like, well, that boat's in rough shape. And I think, well, it's 40 years old. For a 40-year-old boat, that boat's priced fairly well and in really good shape for its age, and that would be a great boat for the fleet. I can't stress that enough. And we need another boat because so many people are taking lessons, and when the boats are always out on lessons, you don't have them to charter. So we need to fill that void somehow. So it'd be a great Christmas present for somebody to buy them a sailboat. If that's a little bit out of the budget, you can still do sailing lessons or just gift certificates for charters for the next year. We'll tell you now, we are going to be going up on our rates a little bit next year, but we'll honor this year's rates now. So if you wanted to schedule something even as far out as maybe March or something like that, we can do our best. Everything's still available, but we'll do this year's rates till the end of the year, and then in January we'll be going up a little bit. What else? SeaVenture Charters is momentarily, if we're not doing it this year. Now that being said, if this winter fall months and it's cool, if you want to do a stroll down the Texas coast, I'm sure Tom and Patty would be glad to get out of the slip and do a trip.
For sure.
What else? Oh, SeaVentures. We're hoping to get that going for 2021, 22.
Yep.
For 22 in January, and we're just all planning for that, hoping for that, and we'll see what happens and go from there.
Sounds good. Is it a wrap?
I believe it is. We were, like I said, we're going to put together a little video of a little bit of a demo of the mini cat, and how simple and easy it is, because that it would be another great Christmas item, either the Tekka cats or the mini cats or the happy cats or any of the cats. So if you have that crazy cat lady in your life that just likes to sail catamarans and motor around in catamaran dinghies, we can accommodate her. So that's it.
Good meeting y'all. You'll be seeing me around on the dock a lot more, and I'm just happy to be part of. Patty and I both are happy to be part of this family, and just can't wait to see y'all down here.
Yeah, and I'm sure Tom will be back on SeaVenture Radio with GBCA, and until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Quit snoring, mud bug.